Yes.
Hang on a minute.
Okay, hang on with us, guys.
Okay, so I am actually not called in. I'm actually speaking to you yourself. I'm
Right.
not called in. So you want to pause recording?
Okay, we'll do that. Go.
Excellent. Well, good evening, everyone. This is Dr. David, and I tell you, we are so excited about tonight's webinar. And I just have to say this: for a long time now, our guest tonight, I have been after him to do a presentation for us. Years ago, he came to our city, and he travels all around the country, instructing and teaching and entertaining people on health and the fundamentals, what really makes health work, what really makes your body work, what really makes your mind work better, and how to protect yourself against illnesses and disease. And like you know, with someone like that, that's it's really tough to tie him down. And so again, it is finally it's almost like a dream come true, as I mentioned to him, to have him on our webinar. And this presentation, I tell you, he is excited about this. We are excited about it as well. There is probably nothing more important than enabling your body to renew itself, to regenerate itself, to heal itself or repair itself, especially as you grow older. So again, we are very, very grateful to have our presenter on tonight, and I'll be introducing and reading out his bio in a few seconds, and we will be handing over to him to do his thing, to really get into the presentation. A quick mention about who we are and what we do. Building Strength webinars, we've been at this now for about 3 or 4 years. Bringing in guests like Joe Woolsey. I call him Dr. Woolsey because he certainly sounds like one. The goal again is to educate the lay people, which is obviously what Joe is passionate about. Educate the lay people on how the mind and the body work and how to keep the mind and the body working. And if something happens, how to restore that health. All right. Joe Woolsey has been studying nutrition since he was in his teens. In the early 2000s, Joe co-founded a nutraceutical company in Houston, Texas, and is now the co-founder of Wellness Shield. And we'll be having him on, too, to come talk about Wellness Shield very, very soon. Joe has spoken extensively throughout the United States and Canada, and as well as internationally to diverse groups, including as a featured speaker at several National Nutritional Foods Association conferences. Feedback received has included many comments that Joe was exciting, extremely knowledgeable, and easily the best speaker I have ever heard at any nutritional conference, quote unquote. Well, I can certainly testify to that. Joe's inspirational message empowers us all to take control of our health and wellness, and he manages to make even the most technical information easily understandable to the average Joe. So without much ado, Joe, thank you so much again for taking the time to do this, and from time to time we'll be interacting, but over to you.
Well, thank you, David, and hope everybody can hear me fine, David.
I'm sure they can, otherwise it would have been seeing a lot of chat messages, and I don't see them so far. So you are good.
Okay, cool. Fantastic. Well, thank you, David, for those very kind words. And I really have to tell you, I'm really excited about being here, and I'm really excited about the product I'm going to be speaking about tonight because the implications of this are huge. And certainly when I talk to medical professionals such as Dr. Ajibade, they invariably understand immediately when I say it. Their eyes get big as saucers, and they start telling me how huge this is. And so I know that it's a pretty amazing thing. And so that being said, I'll get right into it. But first thing that I have to do is the disclaimer, which is that the products herein are not intended to diagnose, treat, mitigate, or cure any disease. Nutritional supplements may, however, improve the structure and function of the human body. And I always like to throw this in. This is actually from the the preamble to the DSHEA Act, where the Congress said improving the health status of U.S. citizens ranks at the top of the national priorities of the federal government, and the importance of nutrition and the benefits of dietary supplements to health promotion and disease prevention have been documented increasingly in scientific studies. There is a link between ingestion of certain nutrients or dietary supplements and the prevention of chronic diseases. That's huge. Clinical research has shown that several chronic diseases can be prevented, and consumers should be empowered to make choices about preventative health care programs based on data from scientific studies of the health benefits related to particular dietary supplements. And that is from the DSHEA Act, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, passed in 1994 unanimously by the Congress. And so this isn't, it's not me saying it, it's not a few people thinking so. This is what overwhelmingly the Congress of the United States believed. And I like the part that they said it is at the top of the national priorities, and that is, you know, and that's because the, quote, healthcare crisis we're in right now would not exist if we weren't so chronically sick. And we are so chronically sick because almost entirely due to the diet of the nation. In fact, I've studied Ayurveda, and in Ayurvedic medicine they have a saying that with proper diet and lifestyle, medicine is of little need. But with improper diet and lifestyle, medicine is of little use. And that's where we're at today. So, what are stem cells? Well, stem cells are normal biological cells, and they're found in all multicellular organisms. So that means anything that's not an amoeba, okay, anything that has more than one cell is going to have stem cells. And these stem cells can differentiate into diverse, specialized cell types and can themselves self-renew, producing more stem cells. In mammals, adult stem cells are found in various tissues and act as a repair system for their body, repairing and replenishing adult tissues. So that's one way to look at it. Another way is that stem cells are how we all begin. They can become any of the more than 200 types of cells found in the human body, and that and the cells we're talking about tonight are not controversial. These are your own stem cells that your body's producing anyway. We just want to find a way to do two things: have your body produce more of them, A, and B, have them in circulation, because stem cells are like money. If you bury it in the backyard or stuff it in the mattress, it's a potential good, but it's not a growing good. It's not doing you any good on a day-to-day basis. Same thing with stem cells. And what happens is, well, I'll get into this later, but stemkine is made to do two things: not only increase production of those stem cells, but increase their circulation. So the source for this, that one day scientists say stem cells may be used to replace or repair damaged cells and have the potential to drastically change the treatment of conditions like cancer, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, and even paralysis. And the source on that is the New York Times from just 1 month ago today. So stemkine, what does that name mean? Well, stem is obviously for stem cells, and kine is from the Greek word kinesis, meaning motion. Stemkine literally means stem cells in motion or in circulation, and that's where you want them. That's where they do you some good. Now, here's some of the potential uses for stem cells, and this is from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. And as you can see, there's a number of uses in the brain. There's even baldness. How about that? There's uses throughout the entire body. And more and more and more, we're finding that truly stem cells can positively impact all of these issues and many more. And the reality is, let's face it, the one thing that I always tell people ask me, well, will this cure my whatever, you know? And I always tell them, no, it won't. Nothing will cure that except your own body. What this, however, may well possibly do is supply your body, your immune system, your cardiovascular system, your circulatory, whatever systems there are, it will supply it with the needed nutritional resources for it to be able to repair itself. The human body is the most amazing self-repair mechanism ever created. And it does staggering things, but it's got to have the resources. And this product is formulated to do exactly that, which is provide the resources. Okay? So, StemKind's effectiveness. This is right from the Journal of Translational Medicine, in which the second StemKind study was published. To our knowledge, this is the first study demonstrating profound mobilization effect with possible clinical significance by a food supplement-based approach. I like that word profound because it tells you that this really works. They were very amazed by it. And the great thing about StemKind is that it has 2 peer-reviewed published studies under its belt, and it's been shown to be effective. And StemKind has actually been sold through a very limited number of doctors worldwide until really less than a month ago, when exclusive worldwide marketing rights were given to RBC Life to market this product. And part of the reason was because RBC Life is very committed to the very best in science and to promoting exactly the truth of something. We don't hype things. We don't have to. This product doesn't require it. All it requires is letting people find out for themselves. And I will tell you that I'm pretty amazed by it. So here's the results of the clinical studies on it. First of all, we're going to be talking about several types of cells here, and I'll get into what these are in a minute, but I wanted to show you this. So endothelial progenitor cells. Anybody who knows anything about the cardiovascular system knows how incredibly important the EPCs, endothelial progenitor cells, are to the human body, especially because these are the cells that create the lining of the various systems in the body, especially the arterial wall lining. What's important about that? What's important is because it's in those cells, in the endothelial cells lining the arterial walls, that nitric oxide is produced. And the Nobel Prize in Medicine, I meant to check this, it was, I believe, either 2000 or 2002, was won by Dr. Zignaro and et al., his team, who discovered nitric oxide's role in the cardiovascular system. Nitric oxide is produced in those cells. You may have heard somebody say something about, oh, you need to take arginine. Well, that's true. Arginine is one of these nutritional resources, but it's got to be produced in these cells, and in those cells, when it's produced, it becomes possibly one of the body's most powerful antioxidants. It's antiviral, antifungal, antibacterial, and it actually prevents and reverses the clumping of cholesterol. See, you could have a cholesterol count of 500, 600, it wouldn't matter if you had sufficient levels of nitric oxide, because cholesterol by itself, even LDL cholesterol, doesn't clump unless it finds 2 things: areas of the arterial wall where the EPCs, the endothelial cells, are damaged, and where it can then oxidize. And so if your arterial walls are in perfect health, where every cell is functioning at its perfect optimum condition, then it won't attach to the cell wall, because it can't attach to healthy endothelial tissue. Secondly, those endothelial tissues, those cells will be producing nitric oxide at such a quantity that as it flows through your bloodstream, that you couldn't have sepsis, you couldn't have any type of infection in the bloodstream, you couldn't have any type of clumping, because that requires oxidation, and it is such a powerful antioxidant that it will prevent that. So That's the big deal with EPCs, endothelial progenitor cells. Now, they also do other amazing things throughout the body. They're the lining of your digestive tract. They're the tissues that separate organs from each other and make up various membranes. Endothelial cells are of huge importance to the human body. They're so important that if your body's not producing enough endothelial cells, endothelial progenitor cells, which then become the endothelial cells, your body will retask the CD133 and 34 stem cells and the hematopoietic colony-forming cells to become endothelial cells, because those are one of the top priorities. Because let's face it, like if your cardiovascular system fails, it doesn't matter how healthy your digestive tract was, you're dead. Okay? So having those cells healthy and functioning is a huge priority for your body. So it will retask those cells. So that's why it's important to have your body producing plenty of EPC cells so that that system is maintained in its peak condition, its optimal condition, so that you can have a better shot at achieving optimum health, or what is called in science homeostasis, where everything, every system, every gland, every organ in the body is working in harmony and in balance with each other. That's the bullseye that we're shooting for here. So then we've got the CD133 and CD34 stem cells and the colony-forming stem cells. You'll hear various terms. These all fall under the umbrella of stem cells. And these are just the ones that they measured. The thing is that we'll get into this a little bit more, but the way StemKine works is it was formulated to work by nourishing the bone marrow. So it's supplying in highly concentrated form the raw materials that your bone marrow needs to create everything it creates. Well, it creates a lot more than those, and I'm going to get into that in a minute, but it's really a fascinating thing. So they found these types of increases, and they're very quick, and what we're finding is that people in a matter of days are finding things like, they may go to the grocery store and check their blood pressure, and they're like, Joe, could this, yeah, maybe, it's it's pretty amazing. So this is figure number one, supplementation augments circulating EPCs. And what they found was that within literally about 2 weeks, on average, about a doubling of circulating EPCs. That's a big deal. Everybody like I said, everybody that I've talked to in the last few weeks that has any knowledge or understanding or is a professional dealing with the cardiovascular system, as soon as I say doubles circulating EPCs, their eyes light up. They get as big as saucers because they instantly, they start telling me, do you understand how important that is? So it is a very big deal. And as you can see, this chart shows that that it's very effective. Then, again, the CD133 stem cells, and the great thing is that by having all those EPC cells, you don't have to produce as many of the CD133 or the CD34 stem cells. So that's a big deal. And then the CFUE, yes, go ahead, David.
Could you remind us what the CD133 and the CD34 stem cells?
So those are your basic stem cells. Typically when they talk about stem cells, those are the cells that they're talking about, because those are the cells that are the multi-possible cells that can become virtually any of the 200 different types of tissues in the human body. So those are the ones with the broadest capability to become almost anything. And like I say, it's important but the body puts such a premium on these EPCs that if you're not producing many of those, the body will retask the CD133 and 34 stem cells and have them go to repairing endothelial tissues before it'll let them go to repair other tissues. And so somebody may say, well, I've had this problem and it hasn't resolved. It may be your body, A, isn't producing enough, and B, what it's producing is getting sent to repair something else inside that you don't know about that injury. You don't know about that because, like, here's a thing. We know that you can have as much as 90% loss of kidney function before you have a symptom.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah. Wow. And you can have a similar loss of pancreatic function. Well, that's why, like, by the time they can actually, you're symptomatic and you get diagnosed with certain forms of cancer, it's too late. That's because you can have this huge loss before you know about it. You may not know what's going on in your body, but it does. And it's going to task these cells to where they're needed based on its priorities, not yours. And so you may have an injured knee, but your body may know something else that's going on, and it's retasking these cells to go fix that first. And until it's got that resolved, it doesn't care about your knee. You're getting around okay, all right? That's the deal, that the body knows better than you do. You may think you know what you need, but your body knows for sure. Does that make sense, David?
Yes, it does. Thanks.
Okay, you bet. So these colony-forming units are also another type of highly specialized endothelial cells. And again, they show a tremendous increase in these and an ongoing. Now, so those are the primary cells that, in terms of stem cells, that StemKine increases production of. But understand this, it actually has been shown, we know it increases production of virtually everything that the bone marrow produces. So red blood cells. So one thing that happens is people tell me, Joe, I've got tons more energy. Well, guess what? If you have more red blood cells, then you're able to carry more oxygen to all of your cells, which means you have more energy. Duh. It's it's just the way the body works. And so that, to me, is also another incredible thing. So again, we saw that the graphic showing the young man and the places that stem cells could be of service to us. Here we find that following a stroke, individuals who had a higher content of circulating stem cells, and that circulating is very important, stem cells recover better than individuals with fewer, from the Journal of Neurology back in 2007. Smoking. Smokers have impaired circulating stem cells, and especially they have smokers deplete their, again, endothelial cells. What is the lining of the lungs, the interior of the lungs made out of? Guess what? EPCs largely, and these colony-forming unit type of endothelial cells. And so, again, increasing that is huge for anybody who smokes or is a recovering smoker. How about that? Vascular health, we've already talked about. Circulating stem cells, again, especially the EPCs, correlate directly with the level of vascular health and cardiac risk factors. The more you have, the healthier cardiovascular system you have. The less you have, the higher your risk factors are based on the Framingham scores. Injury. Injured tissue literally has been shown to send out enzymes that act as messengers to tell your body, we need stem cells here to repair our cells. But if you don't have enough, and if you've got something else going on in the body you don't know about, that may be put on the back burner, so to speak. May take a back seat. Then in cardiac regeneration, we've got, again, so again, we're talking about the cardiovascular system. Again, the colony-forming units have a therapeutic effect in cardiac regeneration. So that's following an infarct. Alzheimer's disease and virtually any type of dementia. Individuals with Alzheimer's, again, they are always shown to have reduced levels of circulating stem cells, and a correlation exists between the decreased number and the severity of the Alzheimer's.
Quick question, Joe.
Yes.
Obviously, this is a part I'm very, very interested in, the brain, how the brain regenerates. And we were trained in medical school, and I believe they still are in many schools they still say that the brain cells do not regenerate when damage has been done.
Well, they may say that in those schools, but the journal articles are all now saying, guess what? We were wrong. We have evidence of regeneration. Not only brain cells, but also neurons. Virtually everything in the neurological system has been shown to be regenerable with sufficient levels of stem cells.
So that's part of the key, or really the key.
It really is.
Okay.
It really
Now,
is.
are these the CD
And that's part of what,
34s?
literally, that's part of what, this is the Journal of Neurology. That is the journal that has to do with the neurological system, the brain and your nervous system. They are the definitive journal, and they're saying, guess what? This works.
And that's amazing. Now, is it compared with patients or people who are of the same age have higher levels of circulating
Exactly.
stem cells?
Exactly. Same age. You'll find that the ones who have no Alzheimer's have higher levels of circulating stem cells than the ones who have Alzheimer's do. And literally almost they can almost take a picture and see how many circulating stem cells you have and tell you how bad that patient's Alzheimer's is. It's that
Really?
correlation.
Wow.
And
Wow.
so are stem cells huge? Yeah. Yeah. Migraines. Here was a really cool thing. Specifically, not just stem cells, but the EPCs. Literally, the EPCs were a direct, the amount or the deficiency of circulating EPCs was an almost direct indicator of the severity of the migraines. Now, we know that migraines have something to do with blood circulation in the brain. And if the EPCs are deficient in the lining of the vascular tissues in the brain, guess what? My bet is you've got migraines. That's literally what neurology is saying in this article. And then ED, how about this? And literally, one of the cool things is, for those of you who haven't seen it, there's a new movie out. It's called Forks Over Knives, and it's primarily about the work of Doctors Esselstyn and T. Colin Campbell. And Esselstyn is a genius in the cardiovascular system, and he was talking in the movie about EPCs and about this effect of how they replace or they maintain the healthy tissue in the vascular system, and how they produce the nitric oxide, which controls, among other things, the elasticity, the expansiveness of the blood vessels. And then they cut in the movie, they cut from there to a clip from a Viagra commercial, okay, and show a little bit of that. And then it cuts to another doctor who says, look, erectile dysfunction is the canary in the mine shaft. It's your early warning system. It's telling you, hey, guess what? You've got a problem with your blood flow. Get it fixed. The problem is, and if you'll remember, Viagra was a failed drug. It was being tested as a cardiovascular drug, and they halted the study, the test on it, because it wasn't working. The blood pressure wasn't changing. But what happened was, when they halted the study and asked everybody to send back in their product, everybody who had the placebo sent it back in, and nobody who had the actual study medication sent it back. Yeah, exactly. And Pfizer's like, what's up with this? They can't know. How could they know? And by the way, it doesn't work. They literally would call them up. Look, it doesn't work. Send it back. And nobody was sending it back. So finally, after a couple of months of making these phone calls and not getting any response, somebody at Pfizer finally had the bright idea to ask them, why aren't you sending it back? And that led to the most successful new drug in terms of sales in the history of big pharma in the United States. Now, here's the thing. If you've got enough circulating EPCs, they couldn't give Viagra away. Bottom line. It's telling you you're deficient in EPCs. That's literally what, it's just a symptom of EPC deficiency, period. So we're going to go through these. I'm not going to take a tremendous amount of time on these. We can make this available to everybody, but I realize this is a little bit dry to a lot of people. But basically, this is shows what following a stroke, and this is from the Pasteur Hospital in France, and they tested 25 patients. You know, and I want to bring this up. The two studies, and pardon me for jumping around, but that's a little bit of ADD, ADHD I've got, but that's okay. That's why I have the PowerPoint, is to keep me on track. People have said, well, the studies are kind of small. Listen, your average drug study, especially the first few that are done on fewer than 20 patients. It's usually not until you get into stage 3 and stage 4 trials that they're done on more than 20 or 20 to 50 patients, and here's why. At that point, you're trying to show that it's not toxic and that it's well tolerated by a broad spectrum of people. But the early studies that are done smaller, just to see does it work or not, okay? And so I've had some people say, well, the studies that were done on StemKine, only had, one had 6 and one had 18 people. That's so many people. For that same type of study, does it work? The typical drug study is only 5 to 20 people. Am I right, David? Dr. David, have I lost you?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's...
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Okay.
I'm here. I muted myself.
That's okay.
You are right.
And so, that is right in line with the average size medical study to see if is it efficacious. And remember, this is just food. And so, there aren't toxins to be found here. So we're not too worried about toxins. We're not trying to establish an LD50 on this. It's a supplement. It's under the generally regarded as safe guidelines. And so there's no need to worry about that. So anyway, what this is showing is that the left side graph had a higher number of the circulating stem cells, and those on the right had a lower side, and then it shows the severity of the effects. And so the severity, when you've got, after you've had the stroke, you'll notice that in both the left and right groupings of 3 columns, they were pretty close at admission, although the ones who had fewer circulating stem cells was significantly lower. But look then at month 1 and month 3. Month 1, the ones who had low stem cells had some recovery, but then between month 1 and 3, not much. Whereas month 1, for those who had higher levels of stem cell, significant recovery, and month 3, even again a fairly significant amount of recovery. And at that point, they are literally at double the recovery of those with lower amounts of the stem cells. And so to me, that's and again, they use the term more profound neurological recovery. When in medical circles, David, again, correct me if I'm wrong, but in medical circles, when they use the word profound, what they mean is profound. They mean this is huge, this is staggering, this is something we probably didn't expect, or didn't expect to this great a degree, and this is a real phenomenon. Am I pretty close to right on that?
Well, absolutely. I mean, medical literature is characteristically conservative when they're describing
exactly.
things.
So when they use the word profound, they're not just throwing that around. They're not blowing smoke, okay? For smokers, this is huge. Yes, sir. Go ahead.
Hey, Joe. Quick pointer. We can actually see your pointer. So when you're describing the graph, please go ahead and point to it. So
thank you. Thank you. I had forgotten about that. Thank you.
Okay.
Not used to doing these all the time. Thank you, though. So smokers, bottom line, if you know anybody, if anybody you love or care about smokes and they just can't quit, at least get them on StemKine, okay? You will be doing them a huge favor. That basically what this shows is that, getting them to quit would be huge, and that their stem cell production does go up significantly. So basically smoking impairs the body's ability to produce stem cells, and it's using them up at a much accelerated rate. And so just really, 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 I can't stress this. And again, it's the EPCs. Those are so important in the lungs just as they are in the lining of your arterial walls. I just can't tell you how important that is. Anybody you know, you love, you care about who smokes, you've got to get them on StemKine. You'll be doing them a huge favor. And I have found already people who smoke are telling me, Joe, I have less of a desire to smoke. I think I can quit in a few months if I keep feeling this way. To me, that's huge.
Wow. How do you explain that?
You know, everything we do, every behavior we have, there is a reward somewhere. And I think that there's some sort of deficiency, something going on there that their body thinks it's fulfilling when they smoke. But I'm just telling you, I've heard that from 3 different people who have been on the product for between not quite a week to 10 days, and all of them have said, you know what, I don't feel the need to smoke as much. And you know what, even if it's placebo effect, if for all 3 of them to tell me that, and they're the only 3 I know of that are smokers who are taking it, and they've all independently told me of each other, told me that. So, you know, I have to think that there's something to that.
Right. That makes sense.
More study is needed. How's that, David?
Yeah, sounds good.
Now, New England Journal of Medicine, probably, I would say, anyway, my belief is that it is the most prestigious medical journal in the U.S., and they found the EPCs play a significant role in continuing endothelial repair. Well, of course they do, because that's why they exist. And this Framingham risk score, I mentioned it earlier, and it's a risk, it's a measurement of cardiac risk factors. And what we find is that the EPCs and the CFUs, colony-forming units, in blood samples of 45 men who had differing degrees of cardiac risk factors but had never been diagnosed, I think they said suffered, but really diagnosed is it, shown that a strong correlation existed between the circulating EPCs and their risk score, meaning that if you had more EPCs, and basically right here, this dividing line here, this is where above this line you have a low risk, below the line you have a high risk, okay? And so the more EPCs you have, the more you're likely to be above the risk line. The fewer you have, the more you're likely to be below it. And so right there we're saying basically, you know, the people who have more have a lower risk, and the Framingham score may not be the best measure, but it is the standard, if you will. And so what they're saying is that circulating EPCs are actually a better predictor of vascular reactivity than the other risk. It's actually saying that the number of circulating EPCs is a better determinant of your risk factor for a cardiovascular event than the Framingham, which is the accepted standard. That's pretty huge. Wouldn't you agree, David? I forgot. He muted himself. Anyway, injury, of course.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. Injury.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, and so that is a big deal, because what we're saying literally is if you've got more, you have a lower risk. If you have fewer, you have a higher risk. If you have a risk factor, you know, you need more EPCs.
Now, tell me really quickly, the Framingham study. What were the key points that what were the parameters they used again?
Oh man, that's pretty. It's pretty broad. Okay. I could do a whole hour and a half just on Framingham. There's a broad number of things that they use to form this risk factor, but that's the important thing. Is they said Framingham measures all these different things. It measures, you know, your blood pressure. It measures nitric oxide. It measures the HDL, LDL. There's all kinds of things that go into it. And what they showed was literally the circulating EPCs was a better determining of your risk factor than the Framingham score. So
that's huge. That's huge.
And I know, David, you know lots about cardiovascular issues. So
Yeah, well, we've had a lot of people come talk about cardiovascular issues as well, and strangely enough, stem cells was not emphasized.
Well,
So
and that's
this is a
because
vital piece of the
this is
puzzle.
this is this is pretty new. I mean, all of this is pretty new stuff. And that's one of the great things about it is we're learning more and more, and so the advancement of science is huge here, and coming up with this product is very timely because just at the time when science is now able to measure these and look at them and determine what their importance is, this product comes along that literally does what all of these studies are saying we need. So that's huge.
Mm.
Injury, of course. I mean, that is how the body repairs from injury. And but interesting was that here they were looking at partially not just injury, but the injury done to a heart in a heart attack, or as they call it, acute myocardial infarction. And so again, 8 subjects who had no evidence of cardiac ischemia but suffered from abnormal chest pain. They used flow cytometry analysis, and literally all that means is they're like putting a meter on your bloodstream to check how many circulating CD34s there were, and the number of circulating CD34 counts significantly increased following onset of heart attack. And so literally, again, this is the heart after a heart attack. The heart tissue is sending out that enzyme messenger and increase the flow of stem cells specifically to that area. And they tested that. And you can see at day 7, there's huge peak of flow to the area. Now, if your body's not producing a lot of stem cells, specifically in this case, the CD34 was the ones they measured. Now, that doesn't mean that's the most important one to the heart, but that's the one they measured, okay, in this particular study. But what it says is that the body literally is capable of telling itself, whoa, we've got an injury here. We need the CD34 or whatever stem cells sent here, and they literally go right to their area and begin repairing tissue.
Mm. What part does the immune system play in all this?
Well, these chemical messengers are oftentimes the same type of chemical messengers used by the immune system, and certainly the immune system is part of it, because stem cells are a form of oh, you went and they're often referred to as a type of macrophage. And David, you know better than I how important the macrophage is to the immune system. It's the smart cell. It's the smart. It's the forward tank commander of the immune system. You'll actually hear them called to as pluripotent macrophages sometimes. Correct, David? And
Right.
so
Right.
the stem cells are very similar to the macrophage that is the quarterback, if you will, of the immune system. Or the general of the immune system army, kind of the forward tank commander. He's the Rommel, the Patton of the immune system. You know,
Right.
he's the forward tank commander that goes out, faces up with the enemy, identifies the enemy, and determines, can I take this enemy out, or do I need to call back for reinforcements? Do I need to send these chemical messengers, again, these enzymes, back to call in maybe the interleukins, interferons, the natural killer cells, the T cells, whatever, you know, other cytokine might be needed, okay? And so macrophages are very similar to stem cells, and so that's it's a very closely linked thing. And those stem cells, the macrophages rather, again, the way they signal is with these enzymes. It's an enzyme, a chemical messenger service, okay? And so very similar. So that's an excellent question. Thank you.
You bet.
This one I love. This is huge. Increasing the number of circulating stem cells. And what this shows is that, again, following an acute myocardial infarction, what that means is a severe heart attack, okay? And this was people who they increased their number of circulating stem cells artificially, and these, they didn't do anything with them. And you'll notice that the baseline is the red line, and you notice that, and this is the improvement from here to here. Well, you notice that virtually no improvement with the control group. They left them on their own. Some got better. A lot got worse. And that basically, if the line's going down, that's where they started from. That's where they ended up. That's where they started from. That's where they ended up. And basically, it's about a 50-50. And sure enough, there's your average right there. And it's almost exactly the same right across. Basically, it's, pick them, 50-50 chance. You get better, you get worse, or you stay the same. But you've got a 50-50 chance. Whereas, look at the group that had the higher levels of stem cells. Look at this guy. Or it was actually two of them. One of them got significantly better. I mean, he did better than almost anybody over here, and he was the worst. And the other guy that matched him became the best. He became the star pupil in this class, okay? And what this shows, virtually everybody, there was one guy, two guys who had decreases. One had a slight decrease, but everybody else went up. Whereas with this, pretty much 50-50. Man, I like these odds a lot better. How about you, David? I mean, I want to be this guy. Now, I don't want to have the cardio infarct in the first place, but man, if I do, I want to have this level of recovery. Does that make sense to everybody?
Sure,
and this is
absolutely.
measuring, what this is measuring is the ejection fraction, and literally what that's showing is after the infarct, and what a heart attack is a damage to, and often death of, an area of tissue in the heart, and it literally it either is died or it has been severely impaired, and you have a lowered, what they call, ejection fraction. Literally, it's measuring the flow rate of the heart. The heart's a pump, right? Every pump you can measure its gallons per minute or cubic feet per minute or whatever. Well, this ejection fraction is that measurement of the heart. And so what they're showing here is that this guy, he had a huge increase in his ejection fraction. And that's, he's up there. When you get up above, he's up there, this is 60, 65. Man, he's up there in above normal for the normal population who hasn't had a heart attack. That's amazing. He went from down here, tied for most severe in this class, to #1 with a bullet. Man, that is a huge increase. Look at these guys over here on the right, and the same guy who started at the same area, he went straight across, no improvement. He did not get any better. One guy below him got a little bit better. Everybody else was better than him, but nobody wound up here north of 65. So in this group, so these guys had a huge increase, and especially this guy. That is a big deal. All right. Alzheimer's, again, we're looking at the EPCs, among other things, and what this demonstrates is that the patients who have Alzheimer's disease invariably had lower amounts of the circulating colony-forming unit EPCs than in the patients who did not have it. And so, again, you want to not have this disease. You want to, give yourself the best shot at it. I would say increasing production of stem cells looks like a pretty good idea based on, these two charts and what the Journal of Neurology is saying here from their May 26 issue of 2009. Again, more stem cells is good. I think that's a statement that I can make with absolute certainty. More circulating stem cells is a good thing. Think that one's a safe statement, David?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed.
Migraine headaches. This is the one I was talking about. Again, the endothelial progenitor cells the more you have, the fewer you have. And what this is showing, these are the ones that have the most severe migraines. These are the moderately to severe migraines, and these are the ones that are migraines, but they're not as severe and not as often. And literally, lower EPCs is the direct correlation. I mean, it's almost a perfect one-to-one correlation. So, you know, anybody who has any type of headache, always, we know that blood flow in the brain is an issue with headaches. And literally the EPCs seem to make the difference. And there is some evidence that the amount of nitric oxide in the bloodstream being formed in the brain is also an issue. Well, again, that goes to the EPCs. And so that's a very huge thing. I mean, if all this product did was increase the number and the circulation of EPCs, that by itself would be huge. The implications would be staggering, but it does much more than that. So again, for migraines, that's huge. So the good news is we have StemKine, clinically proven to increase circulating stem cells. I'm impressed with the product. I've already had significant benefits from it, and feel like it's doing a wonderful job. I do want to go through a few of the testimonials, and these are from the people that were in the second study. This guy, Mike O, and I'll be sending a link to show people the actual video of some of these testimonials. It'll be on the slide here. This guy is obviously happy he can throw a baseball again. He's training for his first marathon. Now this guy is, as I recall, he's 45 years old and training for his first marathon. And in the video, you'll see that he was complaining about his ankles being, you know, dead and hurting when he ran, and now here he is training for his first marathon. That's pretty cool. Sherry has had edema and swelling in her knees and feet, and now she wears high heels every day. Man, I don't think I could wear high heels, regardless of how good my ankles felt. So she's, yeah, that to me is pretty amazing. This gentleman, actually on the video you'll see he has rheumatoid arthritis, specifically in his hips, and has tried, by his own words, everything. Nothing else had ever worked, and he's getting significant improvement. And Brad here, he's our canary in the mine shaft, I guess. And it shows him on the video doing wide grip pull-ups, but not only that, he's got his hands over the top of just this broad wooden beam. I can tell you from experience, doing pull-ups on a bar where you can grip the bar is one thing. Doing pull-ups where you've just got your hand laid over the top of a beam is infinitely more difficult. And he knocks out 5 or 6 of them and pretty quickly, and he literally says, I've never been able to do that. Now this guy's in his mid-50s, and here he's gone from, he lost also 35 pounds within 2 months. And so that gets me to one other thing that's been shown that the StemKine does, and that is that it also increases production called T suppressor cells. Now, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about how the body does things it does and why we have the issues we have. What happens is, and by the way, actually there's evidence, there are, if you read the journals, there's some doctors who will tell you that apparently fat produces more stem cells than your bone marrow does. Well, that's not really true. That's just because that's where they're finding it. What happens is, why does your body put on fat? The human body still thinks we're hunter-gatherers, okay? And so any stress that we have, whatever it may be, our body interprets that stress as a threat to the food supply. You may be having relationship issues. You may be having job issues. You may have a physical stressor of some kind, but to the body, it's all a threat to the food supply. And so what does the body do when it feels stress? is it decides it's going to put on fat because we're running out of food. Then what happens? We diet. Guess what the body says? I was right. I knew it. We're running out of food. And so it works even harder to put on fat. And so then it does something really devious. It turns on a mechanism by which it rewards you for eating the worst possible foods for you. It literally pumps endorphins into your brain, making you feel wonderful when you eat candy and ice cream and cake and pie. Do you know anybody who says, I can't help myself? I know I shouldn't eat that, but I can't help myself. Literally, it's because the body is fighting against them, thinking it's doing the right thing, and it's rewarding them for eating the foods that are guaranteed to put fat on them. Not only that, but even if you've lost some pound, it's that fat around the middle that's the hardest to get rid of. That last 10, 15, maybe 20 pounds, and you just can't lose it. And that's because the body's fighting tooth and nail to keep it because it's afraid you're running out of food, and it's trying to protect itself. So what Dr. Reardon, who developed the product, discovered was that people who have this visceral fat with lots of stem cells locked up in it have incredibly low T suppressor cell counts. And these T suppressor cells are very high in people who have low amounts of the visceral fat and are very healthy and happy and well-adjusted. And so T suppressor cells are also produced in the bone marrow. So David, you asked me about how does this relate with the immune system. Here's another way. The T suppressor cells are immune cells. They're immune regulatory cells that tell the body to chill out. They tell the immune system chill out. We've beaten the disease. We don't need any more cytokines. We don't need any more inflammation. People who have high levels of inflammation, meaning anybody with any type of itis, anything ending in itis, that's always inflammation. Autoimmune disorders, that's inflammation. Any type of issue like that are very low in T suppressor cells. Stemkine appears to increase the production of these T suppressor cells, and therefore they then tell the body, hey, guess what? It's not a big deal. You can let go of the fat. And people find that they're losing the fat, losing the weight, and that frees up all of these stem cells, plus you're producing more. And that's why the name Stemkine is that it gets the stem cells not only in production more, but circulating so they're available to fix what's wrong. And that's the important thing here, okay? Hence the name Stemkine.
It seems to me that when you get the body working the way it should be working, that things like intractable weight gain can be reversed.
And again, in fact, on the video, there's a lady who had already lost over 70 pounds just taking Stemkine. And she talks about the visceral fat and how it, the term they use is sequesters. It literally sucks them in and holds them and keeps them alive, okay? But like I said, that's like burying a bunch of cash in the backyard or stuffing it in the mattress. It's potential good. And why would the body do that? Well, because it's afraid, well, if I run out of food and have to live off the fat, if I have to live off the fat, my bone marrow can't produce any stem cells, and it can't. It has to get fresh fruits and vegetables, and so it can't produce stem cells, and so it's sequestering those stem cells so that if the body's having to live off the fat, it'll still have stem cells to repair any damage that takes place. And, of course, just the natural wear and tear. Does that make sense? Of course. And so, again, this product was formulated brilliantly to work with the body naturally. It looks at the problem from all the facets and is a holistic approach. So it not only increases production of stem cells and gets them in circulation, but it tells the body to let go of the fat, let go of the stem cells, and so you can have them in circulation. You'll feel better, have a reduction in inflammation, and it instead of what most people on, David, you know this as well as I do, most people are on that downward spiral of health. It can reverse it and get them spiraling back upwards. And the great thing to me about this product is that the label recommended amount of 2 a day is the functional amount that works. You don't have to take a lot of it. When I first heard of it, I'm like, great, but you may have to take a bottle a day or a bottle a week, or no, a bottle a month is, for most people, gives them the maximum benefit. And
regardless of size or age.
Regardless of size, age, weight, you can take it with food, without food. They found it didn't matter. The only thing that seemed to matter was taking 4 a day for the first 2 weeks, so a whole bottle in the first 2 weeks seemed to get you up to the maximum level, but then 2 a day maintains most people at the maximum level of benefit indefinitely. And so it's high, man, that makes it incredible. The other thing that I'm finding is that whatever else you're taking, and if you're with another, company, God bless you, that's fine, but whatever else you're taking there is going to work better. You're going to get better results, and you may not have to take as much of it. So that's amazing too. And I'm already experiencing that with some people who said, Joe, I already take all this, but I'd like to try that. And within days, they're calling me up going, man, I haven't felt this good in ages. And literally, I believe that what they're taking is doing them good, but this is helping it to work better.
So you're saying that this helps the other, be they nutritional supplements, be they antioxidants, anti-inflammatories, CoQ10, and all the other wonderful things out there. As a matter of fact, someone was asking the question if someone still needs to take arginine.
Absolutely, because arginine is the raw material that those endothelial cells need to produce the nitric oxide. And there's a whole formulation. And in fact, RBC has a product that's based on the Nobel Prize winning science to produce the nitric oxide. But those are the raw materials that those cells need. But if those cells aren't there, if they're compromised, then it won't matter how much of that you take. And conversely, if you've got plenty of endothelial cells, you still need the raw materials. It would be kind of like if you've got a factory, those cells are factories, right? If you've got a factory and all the workers are there and the machines are ready to go, but you don't get the raw materials, you don't produce anything, right? And so you still need the raw material. But what you'll find if you've been taking the arginine or the over 30 or whatever it is, and it's been working, I'm sure, but now you'll find it'll work better. That's the point. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Makes sense to me. I guarantee you that. This young lady, she has her own video. Actually, she and he, Richard here is her coach, and they're both in both videos, but there's a second video that shows young Allie here, and really, because it's important, she's an 18-year-old golfer, and she's diabetic, and this has made she literally shaved 10 strokes off her game by improving her focus, her ability to play, and that's because of the StemKine. So to me, that's a pretty cool thing. So here's my my email address, and if anybody who has any questions will just do me the favor of 2 things: putting the term webinar in the subject line. You can put it whatever else, but put webinar and include your phone number, because if I have any follow-up questions, it's just a lot quicker and easier for me to call you and do that. And give me a few days and allow me to have some time to get back to you, because I put in about 10 to 15-hour days as it is, and B, I may need to do some research before I even answer you in the first place. So please include your phone number, because if I've got follow-up questions, that makes it easier. And then here's a contact for ordering, joining, and again, please include your phone number. And you can go here. This is my YouTube channel, and you can go and check it out there. You can check out the product video, and it has a lot of the testimonials. And then this one is the testimonial with Allie and Richard, her coach. And you can check out that on the product video. You've got Dr. Reardon explaining the product and some of the development and showing many of the slides that I just showed you and explaining all of that. And so you can get this. And if you want me to send you these links, again, just go to toaskjoe.rbc@gmail.com. It's pretty simple. The number 2, askjoe.rbc@gmail.com. And I'll get back to you, and I can send you I'll probably just send you this link, and you can watch both videos. And they're really, to me, fascinating, brief, extremely well done, and you can check all that out. And so what do you do now? Well, you can, or you can go here. You can go right to this, and it'll product 1655. That's StemKine. Everything's numbers, right? But to me, the product is a wonderful product. It's very timely, and I'm seeing tremendous benefit. The people that I've gotten on it just in this short amount of time are getting tremendous benefit, and the science is real. This is the future, and I find it staggering. It's absolutely amazing, and I'll be happy to help anybody with any type of questions. And again, what I'm talking about here is not a cure. This is just providing the body with what it needs so it can heal itself, which it's always been able to do. Nothing has changed. And that, to me, is another cool thing. David, anything else I need to do?
Well, this has been fantastic. We certainly do want you to stay behind and answer questions.
I'll be
sure
happy to.
Start piling in.
There's one, and it was actually asked at the very beginning, so I'll go back to that. How does StemKine compare to another product? How should I go there, David?
Hang on, Joe. Just a minute. Let me just be sure to
I tell you,
this out.
You go through them. You go through them and ask them to me. How's that?
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Okay.
All right. Before we start the questions, and folks, if you're using this system for the first time, please be sure that you can actually type in questions in the panel to your right. Now, I just wanted to emphasize the first point that Joe made up here on this slide. If you were invited here by someone who is like an RBC distributor or consultant, I'm not sure what the designation is, please get back with the person who invited you to go to the webinar. This is for those who maybe on our email list who have received and probably have never even heard about StemKine, and so you came on the webinar to find out more. What we always do, and the way we get great speakers on, is really when someone, we call them the foot soldiers. A lot of our presenters have come on through people like you, the listener, the viewer, contacting us and telling us about this presenter or this expert and connecting us with the expert. As a matter of fact, I would say close to 60% of our speakers have come in that way. I've known a few, but by no means has that been enough to bring in some of the great speakers that we have had. So, and in this case, it was Susan Rainey. And Susan, if you're out there, thank you for bringing this to our attention. And of course, we had always been, like I said, chasing Joe to come on for a presentation, and this was just the perfect opportunity for us to really get on his case to come on. So, and I'm glad we did that. So again, thank you, Joe, and thank you, Susan, for helping connect us. And then Sandy Britton, too, is out there. Thank you, Sandy Britton, for following up on this for us. All right, I'm going to be asking the questions. And again, folks, you can go ahead and type in the questions in the chat box to your right, and I can see them piling in. All right, let's start with the first one. How does StemKine compare to earlier similar competitive products such as Stem Enhance?
Well,
I don't know what that is. Do you know?
Yes, I'm familiar with Stem Enhance, and it compares very favorably because, for one thing, Stem Enhance does have one very, again, small study, and really what it showed, and the term they used was that it releases the stem cells, and they weren't even sure exactly how it did it. They just knew that it did it, but they weren't sure about the science. And so what it may be that Stem Enhance did was just encourage the body to release some of it that was trapped in the fat. And I think that's why they used that term, was because they couldn't show that it was actually increasing the bone marrow's production of it. Whereas StemKine has been shown to actually both increase the body's production of stem cells, and not just one type, but a spectrum of the stem cells, the colony-forming units, the EPCs, and the CD34 and 133 stem cells, and to also increase production of these T suppressor cells. And if that's all it did, that would be huge. David, you, again, probably know better than I do how important these T suppressor cells are. Many of the maladies that are facing, modern day Americans here in North America can almost be completely reversed with sufficient levels of T suppressor cells. And so that alone could be huge. Any one of these could be huge. The fact that it does all of these things, that it, tells the body to let go of the fat, let go of the stem cells, and actually nourishes the bone marrow to increase the production of the CD34, CD133, the colony-forming units, and the EPCs. And it may do more than that. My suspicion is that by nourishing the bone marrow, it's actually increasing production of everything the bone marrow produces. And I think we'll find out more and more wonderful things about this product as we go along. Sitting there in the audience when I heard Dr. Reardon do the presentation, the things that we found out about, it was just staggering. And I really think that what we're going to find out is that this product, it's a paradigm changer. It changes everything. And in fact, on another video that I'm hoping to get posted to my site pretty soon, shows a doctor who was there, invited as a guest, who had no knowledge of RBC or StemKine, and this doctor was in the audience, and he literally said, afterwards, he said, the whole time I'm sitting there, and in my head I'm thinking, paradigm change, paradigm change, paradigm, shift. Mm-hmm. And he said, I have 13,000 patients, and every one of them needs to be on this product. Well, that's pretty huge. Wow. Yeah. I mean, and it's that level of product. So go ahead, David.
All right. You've already answered the question about arginine. You've already answered the question about how many capsules are recommended.
Yep.
Just 2 a day, right?
2 a day.
It doesn't matter
they did show
before
a
or
benefit
after meals.
Doesn't matter when. I do know that because it's primarily water soluble, anything that's water soluble, it'd be better to take like one in the morning, one in the evening, than taking both at the same time. But if you're one of those people who can't remember to take them twice a day, then take them both at the same time. But that's the best answer I can give you.
Okay. Are your stem cells, interesting question, are your stem cells lower during the menstrual cycle?
Well, certainly there's stem cells present in any volume of blood, and so some of them will be lost during the menstrual cycle. So, for women who are experiencing that, it might be that you might want to order an extra bottle and maybe take, let's say, 3 during your 2 weeks, and only 2 the other 2 weeks. There's, I don't know. But certainly if you're losing some volume of blood, then you probably are losing some stem cells just because they're going to be there. They're circulating. There's not a filter keeping them away, Does that make sense?
Right. And go ahead.
I see the one about foods, and I will tell you this, Dr. Reardon, certainly this is a proprietary formulation, and Dr. Reardon wasn't about to tell us what the formula is, but one thing he did say was that the product was made largely with foods that are very high in antioxidant content. And then he kind of smiled and he said, I noticed that there were blueberries out on the buffet. Eat lots of those. Those are very good for you. So the little hint there, I would say. But again, this product is a hyper-concentrated formulation of the products of the things that are known to impact the stem cell production, and so there's a good chance that you probably can't do it with diet, or people would be doing it with diet. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yep, yep, yep. And speaking about antioxidants, it seems like you just can't go wrong with antioxidants.
Can't go wrong with
I know
antioxidants. Yeah.
I know another flagship, another really good product that RBC produces is NeuroBright, which is, I guess, the cornerstone is antioxidants.
Well, it
Isn't it?
is, and then they also have one that, in terms of a food-based antioxidant, is spectacular, and that's their OPC plus, oligomeric proanthocyanidins, and that's why they call them OPCs. Nobody wants to try to say oligomeric proanthocyanidins.
Right.
OPCs, most people are familiar with resveratrol and maybe even some pycnogenol. They fall under that umbrella of OPCs, these proanthocyanidins. Oligomeric just means that it's many of them, a broad number of them, and these OPCs are incredibly potent, literally 20 times more powerful than vitamin C, 50 times more powerful than vitamin E as antioxidants. And
Wow.
bang for the buck, man, that OPC is amazing stuff. And again, and in fact, the OPC product that RBC has is almost identical to a product that's sold as a prescription drug in Europe to repair vascular damage. So like for
Interesting.
people who are, people who are on, let's say, Plavix, or even just they're old and they bruise easily, that product will reverse that in a matter of days. So I'm thinking
Interesting.
that product, along with this, with the EPCs, I'm thinking you can have an incredible, and especially then their over 30 product, which is formulated to provide the raw materials for the nitric oxide. Man, that is a cardiovascular regimen that would be almost impossible to beat.
Hmm. Interesting stuff. Okay. Here's a good question from, I believe Helen is in Australia. Aren't you, Helen? Down under. Could you confirm that, Helen? I think you are from Australia. That's the cool thing about technology, Joe. You have
Yeah,
people all over the world
she's
just log
missing
in
sleep.
and listening to. She really is. I wonder what time it is over there. Helen, tell us what time it is, please. Okay. Would this formulation assist the body? This is an interesting question. In increasing cartilage in bone in the knee or hip joints. In other words, if already bone on bone.
Right.
What time frame?
Actually, that is one of the areas that is of great interest in stem cell therapy, and that's one of the places where they have had already big success with it. And if I may, anecdotally for myself, I've had bad knees since I was a teenager. I've had 4 surgeries on my right knee. 3 of them had to do with the meniscus, with the cartilage, and my knee feels better, and it's felt in a year beginning with a 2. I mean, over a decade, and that's only in
Wow.
3 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. So basically, I mean, in your case, it probably was more of inflammation than it is cartilage damage.
No, I've
Although
got
inflammation does
severe
cause
cartilage
cartilage
damage, but
damage.
I'm telling you, it moves more freely. It moves more fluidly. I've got greater range of motion. It's getting better. Now, I take a lot of
Mm.
the MSM. I take the Phyto C. I take the OPC, because all of those are building blocks of cartilage, of collagen. I take a lot of that. But so my belief is that this is helping all of that work better.
Mm. Makes sense. Okay, Helen says it's 12:20 a.m. Friday morning in
Bless your heart,
Australia.
Helen. Wow.
All right. Karen wants to know, I missed the beginning due to technical difficulties. Is this vegan?
You know what? I'm not sure if the capsule, and sadly I gave my bottle that I had here to somebody here at the office. I don't know if the capsule is vegan, and I honestly cannot answer that right off the top of my head. Let me see if I've got something here that has that on it. But what I can tell you is that other than that, I don't think that there's anything animal derived in it. It would be the capsule if it were anything, and I don't think even RBC tends to use vegan capsules on everything. So, but my apologies, I don't have that right at my fingertips.
Okay, we have a doctor on the call, and he's saying, repeat that cardiovascular regimen, please. What with
Sure. They're OPC Plus, because that is an incredibly potent, like I said, it's actually been shown in clinical studies to repair the vascular walls. So that plus the stem kind plus the over 30, because it was based on the Nobel Prize winning science, doctors Ignaro and his team came up with about nitric oxide and arginine's role. And I want to say that was, David, do you remember, was that 2002? I believe that was
I think it was,
or was it 99? I can't remember. It was somewhere
it was 1999.
99. Now
yeah,
that you say that, I think you're right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Right.
and again, you can, I'll back this up, maybe. Yeah, 2askjoe@rbc.rbc@gmail.com. Email me, and I'll be happy to do the research, send you any other, things. I can also, anybody who emails me there and asks, I'll send them the studies. I'll send them the studies. They can read over it, see everything. I'll send them whatever they want.
Okay, great.
Well, I won't send
And
them free
Susan's,
product, but yeah.
yeah, that would be the next question. Yeah, you said free products.
I won't send free product,
sample
but I'll send them everything. I'll send them all the information they want.
Okay, great. And Susan says that this is on the bottle. It does say vegetable capsule.
I thought so. Thank you, Susan. Appreciate that. Love you, Susan Stadley. Thank you. Yeah, I thought that I remembered that, but I gave my bottle, and I should have held on to it knowing I was doing tonight, but I just wasn't thinking. And gave the bottle I had here at the office away. So anyway, but yeah, so yes, it's completely vegan.
Great, great. And I know some people will be wanting to ask the question, obviously, about price.
The list price
you
on it,
answer that?
I will. List
Okay,
price
great.
is $89, but that's full retail. Then for preferred customers on auto ship, it comes down to, I believe, like $71, $72. And for an associate on auto ship, it comes down to $62. Well, that's basically right at $2 a day. For me, $2 a day, for what this has already shown me it does, I'll pay that the rest of my life and be a very happy man. Because one of the things I'm finding already is there's some things I just don't have to take as much of. So I'm actually able to economize in a couple of other things and yet feel better, feel I've got more energy, so I don't have to take as much of like the endocrine support products and things like that to provide me with energy. I'm sleeping better, so and wake up feeling great. Man, I haven't woke up feeling this good in ages. And understand, I co-founded a nutraceutical company, and I'm telling you that this stuff is the most amazing stuff I've ever seen.
Wow. Well, that certainly says a lot, because I know the kind of products you've been exposed to and that you've researched. So that certainly says a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Any more questions, folks? Go ahead, Joe.
All right. And David, again, thank you very much. I had a great time, and I look forward to doing this again with you.
Well, absolutely. Now that we've gotten you once, we've got to keep this
Yeah,
ball rolling and
I will
not have you
absolutely do
disappear
it
again.
now. Now I am ready and prepared and able to do it, and so I look forward to doing it. And I want to thank everybody for being on the call. I really did have a great time doing this.
Well, great. We really enjoyed the information that you shared, and again, we hope we can give us more and more as the weeks roll by.
I will do that.
All right. Well, appreciate it.
So
Appreciate
what
it.
do I need to
Well,
do? Or
folks,
do you have control, or do I?
well, I'll tell you what. When we end the presentation, do not shut your computer down because it's going to
Right.
take like an hour or so to. So just I'll end it from here. That's no problem. But that's,
Okay.
It is going to download onto your computer.
Right.
All right.
No problem.
Folks, thank you for joining us. This has been an excellent presentation, and we're just going to thank you again, Joe, and you guys join us next week for other great presentations. I guess the recording will be available, so we will send you out an email. So if you want to have a download for yourself, just let us know. All right, God bless. Have a great evening. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The organ